Ms. Schwartz, and I'm the Chair of the Agency Operations Committee. It is 12:06 p.m. And I'd like to call the April 24th Agency Operations Committee meeting to order. Please be aware that this meeting is being broadcast via the internet. Before we begin, I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome those joining us via video conference and ask that they observe the following etiquette. Please state your name before you speak, mute your phone when not speaking, and keep background noise to a minimum. Members, when I call your name, please announce present. Welcome Wilson, Vice Chair.
Present.
Javed Anwar.
Present.
Fred Farias.
Present.
Stacy Hawk.
Present.
Donna Williams.
Present.
And myself, Emma Schwartz. Please record in the minutes that we have a quorum. Agenda item 2 is approval of the minutes from the January 24th, 2024 Agency Operations Committee meeting. Do I have a motion for the approval of the minutes?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Williams, a second by Mr. Wilson. Sorry. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The item passes. Agenda item 3 is public testimony. We do not have anyone registered to testify today, so we'll go on to the next item. Agenda item 4A is a report on grants and contracts. This item does not require any action. Mr. Anthony Infantini, Chief Financial Officer, will present this item to the committee and is available if you have any questions. Mr. Infantini, welcome.
Good morning. Just happy to answer any questions you may have on the report that you have.
I don't have any. Does anyone? No? Okay. Hearing no questions, we'll move on to the next agenda item. Agenda item 5A is review of the fiscal year 2024 financial report to the board. This item does not require any action. Mr. Infantini will present this item to the committee and is available for questions. Welcome back.
Thank you. Morning again. So the financial report, my name's Anthony Infantini, Chief Financial Officer. The financial report you have in your book, in your packet, is through the first 6 months of fiscal year 2024, which is the first year of our 2024 to 25 biennium. And the budget still largely aligns with what was approved last July. As discussed previously, most categories of our spending for the agency have flexibility to spend money over both years of the biennium through unexpended balance riders. And actually, a number of the items in our current budget were funded as lump sums to kind of manage through over these 2 years. So as a result, there's going to be fewer budget adjustments needed by PCA in the first year of the biennium, but we do monitor the program needs and try to align funds as best as possible. Shifting to the student loans and our upcoming bond issue, overall loan demand is, from an overall dollar perspective, is trended downward from last year, which is what we expected, given some of the implementations of the manageable debt rules and forward loan program. For our upcoming bond issue, we did conduct our TEFRA hearing in March, and we're providing disclosures and other information to the bond review board to fulfill our compliance requirements in order to issue that bond. We also received confirmation from our 2 rating agencies that our AAA credit rating will stay intact for our upcoming bond issue. We're also refining the economic conditions and looking to refine the timing and size of the bond issue, and also to look at the potential to refund the callable bonds that were issued in 2013 and 2014. But I do want to note there's been an upward trend on interest rates, which are reducing the likelihood of any bond refunding. And also, I just want to take this point to mention in our next board meeting, we're going to be presenting the legislative appropriations request for 2026 and 27, which is always interesting with their cycle. As I mentioned, we're just kind of still up and running with our current budget, but we do need to start the plan to request and ask and align our budget for the next biennium. And we'll be presenting that to the board for your approval in July. Right now, we're working with the LBB and Governor's Office to structure that budget for the ongoing administration of some of the new programs and initiatives in our current biennium, and also working to identify how much of our current budget will be part of our base request for that 2026 to 27 biennium. So the outcome of all that work will play a role in what additional items beyond our base request may be made by the agency through exceptional items to be considered by the 89th legislature next spring. And with that, I don't know, Commissioner, if you want to expand at all, but.
I do want to weigh in on a couple of things generally. And so first, I want to say thank you to Sarah Keaton and to Anthony. We're in the best financial shape we've ever been as an agency. In particular, I did want to call out that the state auditor reviews the contracts across the 25 largest state agencies, and there was one agency that was recommended for reduced monitoring, and that's the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board, and which is our second year in a row to be the only agency that was recommended for reduced monitoring, and really appreciate our team's efforts on improving our. I think they would be the first to tell you there's more coming on streamlining how we manage our budgets, how we manage operations, how we manage grants and contracts, but really exemplary work this year by our administration team.
I would like to echo that too with KPMG and the staff and our chair, Ms. Schwartz, and a lot of folks on the board. Being on agency operations and the regular communication, I mean, those things don't happen by accident. And we're a large state agency, so I concur with the commissioner, with the communication, and with Sarah and with Anthony and your teams, and all the good work that y'all do that keep things rolling and at a high level. Thank you.
Agreed. Congratulations. That's great.
The 24 million contract with Baylor College of Medicine.
Yeah.
Was that money that was, I assume that's not coming out of our general operating fund. Is that money that was appropriated to us by the legislature?
That was appropriated for a specific purpose. It's an ongoing, it's in our budget. We have a Baylor College of Medicine set of strategies that are just assigned to that. So it was one of those non-discretionary contracts where we have the money, we have to enter an agreement, but we didn't have much discretion in how that money is spent.
Yeah, good. Okay, because it's material in your contracting. I just want to make sure that we weren't going to look for the money somewhere.
And that's been in place for how long? For a long time, right?
A number of years,
Yeah.
I can say that. Before it predates me, but that's not
Yeah,
saying that
yeah,
much.
yeah.
But yes.
That even predates me.
Yeah.
Going from a decade
Yeah,
on.
a long time. Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next item. Agenda item 6A is discussion of statements on auditing standards. Number 114, the auditor's communication with those charged with governance. Ms. Susan Warren, audit partner, and Shannon Canales, senior manager with KPMG, are joining us via Zoom to present this item. Ms. Warren and Ms. Canales.
Thank you.
Welcome.
We appreciate being able to join you today. If you can advance the slides to slide 3, we'll start with the agenda. So we do have the required communications that we go through as we start the audit for August 31st, 2023. We'll talk about what that scope of the audit is and then any key risk that we've identified to date. The next slide gives you your team. Myself and Shannon are with you today. You can see us as the partner and the audit senior manager. The blue boxes mean these people are coming back. So when Bendigo, Sherry, and Motion have been on the engagement for several years, that's our actuary and our IT professionals. We do have a new audit senior this year, Brandon. The gentleman who was here last year has been promoted to manager. And then the second partner retired, David Hardwood retired. That's the name you would have seen here in the past. So we've added Jane Letts. Jane Letts actually works with Shannon and I on multiple Texas government engagements. So she was a natural fit to join the team from that perspective. If you move to the next slide, Shannon's going to pick up on the required communications.
Thank you, Susan. Good to see you all. If you can advance to slide 6, please. So this is just a summary of the information that I will be going over on the subsequent slides. So if you could advance to slide 7. Here are some of our materiality reminders. We use judgment involving both quantitative and qualitative considerations to determine what would be material to the users of the financial statements. And next slide, please. This is our audit timeline. From the fall through now, we've been doing our planning work as well as our IT work and having meetings with members of management as well as yourselves. Starting next week, we'll be doing our audit procedures, kicking them off. before we do our wrap up in June and issue our financial statements then. Next slide, please. So these are the same two significant risks that we've identified in prior year. We do have an identified broad risk over management override of controls that exists at all entities. And as in prior year, we also have identified a risk of error related to capacity of personnel due to the implementation of various strategic objectives at the coordinating board. Next slide, please. Here we have listed out our significant audit areas, including valuation and existence of student loans and the balances, debt and compliance with debt covenants, accuracy of financial assistance expenses, accuracy of grant revenues, OPEB and pension obligations, as well as evaluation of the IT systems. And there have been no changes from prior year in these matters or our planned audit approach. Next slide. From an involvement of others standpoint, we utilize internal audit to assist with execution of certain audit areas, and we also involve our KPMG actuary specialist to review the valuation and assumptions for both OPEB and the pension obligation. Next slide. As always, we are required to be independent, and that is a shared responsibility. So there are just some reminders on this slide in regards to that. And next slide, please. And then this slide here lays out the responsibilities of ourselves in management in the audit process. Does anyone have any questions about the slides presented before I hand it over to Susan to go through the inquiries?
Any questions? No, I think you can continue.
All right, I'll pick it back up with the next slide, please. So these are the questions that we, for those of you who have been on the board or committee in the past, these questions we get asked every year. The standards do require that we refresh. So basically walk through the questions each year just to make sure that it's top of mind. So starting at the top of the page, does anybody on the committee have any knowledge of any violations of laws or regulations related to the coordinating board, of course?
No.
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 Okay. Any significant communications with regulators?
No.
No.
Okay. The next one is kind of just out of a catch-all, if you will. Any developments that you're aware of as far as operations, governance that would ultimately impact the reliability of the financial information?
No.
Okay. Middle of the page has to do with fraud. Any knowledge of any allegations of fraud with a coordinating board employee?
No.
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 Okay. And then at the bottom, starting with the second bullet, this one here called the appropriate person question. So what this means is if the commissioner and KPMG and Anthony and we all come together and we decide we have something we need to share with the board before the July meeting, we'd like to have a cadence in place as to how you would like us to proceed with that. Historically, you have asked us to call the committee chair to discuss the information and then let the committee chair decide how to proceed. Would that be how you would like to continue to handle this if it were to occur?
Yes.
Okay. Responsibilities allocated. What this question is getting at is if there's been any significant changes in delegation of authority between the board, the committee, and management.
There have been none.
Okay. Strategies and business related risks. This is really getting at if there's any new objectives. I mean, we do know about the new bills that got passed, so we've already kind of put that into our planning process. But besides the new bills, anything in your mind that would come up that basically affect the flow of the cash within coordinating board?
No.
Okay. Areas of particular interest. This is really kind of the catch-all, if you will. Anything on your mind that you would like to share with us as far as items that might bring additional risk to the financial statement audit?
No.
Nope.
Nope.
Shifting a little bit to internal controls. Any knowledge of any internal controls that have not been effective during the year?
I'm
No.
not aware.
Okay. And then the next one's NA. And then significant unusual transactions. These are going to be things that that would be outside the normal course of what you do. We're not aware of any of these, but we do like just to ask to make sure that there's not something out there that you guys voted to do that's not within the normal course of distributing funds to the colleges and universities.
Nothing unusual.
Okay. And then the last one there is compliance with the laws and regulations. Any known effect there, like if something wasn't compliant, that it would impact the financial statements.
I'm not aware.
Okay. That's the end of the required comments. Any additional thoughts anybody would have that you'd like to share, or questions you might have for Shannon and I?
Any other questions? No? Okay, I think we're good.
Okay, well, thank you so much for allowing us to present the audit plan and to get you the input from the board.
Thank you
Thank you,
very
everyone.
much. Okay, moving on to agenda items 6B, 1 through 3. These are the auditor update on internal audit reports and activities. These items do not require any action. Mr. R.B. Gonzalez, Assistant Commissioner for Internal Audit and Compliance, will present this item and is available to answer any questions.
Good afternoon, Chair Schwartz, community members. My name is R.B. Gonzalez, and I serve as the Assistant Commissioner for Internal Audit and Compliance. I'm presenting an update on internal audit activity since our last board meeting. There's no action on this agenda item. We are currently working on 3 projects. The first project is related to the Texas Research Incentive Program. It's under a quality assurance review right now to ensure that we have appropriate diligence and support to release the report. And that should be coming to you before the next board meeting. We also started an internal audit of key processes related to community college finance. Specifically, we are reviewing our agency's processes to calculate 3 pay amounts for community colleges. We are currently in field work, which means we are conducting tests to confirm that controls are functioning and processes are working as intended. Also, our advisory project related to the community college finance procedures is ongoing. The project is related to providing perspective and insights related to risks and controls for to funding and resource planning as they continue to improve and take a look and develop their policies and procedures. Our risk assessment to prepare for the fiscal year 2025 internal audit plan is ongoing, and we will present that plan to you during the July board meeting. I'm also happy to report that we've made an offer to fill our last vacant position. We have a senior internal auditor starting on May 13th, and we will be fully staffed in internal audit and compliance on that date. This concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take your questions.
Any questions? I'm glad you got your staffing taken care of. No questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the next item. Agenda item 7A, 1 through 11 are the auditor's update on state and federal compliance monitoring reports and activities. These items do not require any action. Mr. R.B. Gonzalez, Assistant Commissioner for Internal Audit and Compliance, and Mr. Paul Mayert, Assistant Director for Internal Audit and Compliance, will present this item and are here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chair Schwartz, members. My name is Paul Mayert, Director of Compliance, and I'll start with the state compliance monitoring. We completed 10 state compliance monitoring projects and a corrective action status report since our prior AOC meeting in January, and each of the reports is included in your materials. Next, I'd like to highlight one of those reports that included recommendations. The review of tuition equalization grant at Southwestern Adventist University included 2 observations, one related to information technology controls and one related to separation of duties. With respect to information security controls, the institution did not provide sufficient documentation regarding information technology control policies and procedures, indicating that internal control and risk management standards needed further improvement. Because of this issue, we chose to delay further review of the underlying financial aid data until full implementation of their new financial aid and student account system and associated policies and procedures. With respect to the separation of duties issue, the student financial aid services staff had full access to both student accounts and financial aid data. This created a lack of separation of duties between the student account administration and financial aid administration. The institution has already begun the necessary changes to implement both of these recommendations. Lastly, I'd like to note that the sexual misconduct reporting projects included in the materials were also submitted and discussed in the cause meeting and are included here for cross-reference purposes only. Lastly, federal compliance monitoring. We continue to make progress with federal grant subrecipient reviews for both GEAR funding and Perkins funding. We're also beginning a review of institutional single audit reporting for the FY23 period. And that concludes my compliance monitoring update. I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the final agenda item, which is the conclusion of the Agency Operations Committee meeting. The time is 12:27. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Ms. Williams and a second by Mr. Wilson. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. The motion passes. Thank you all very much.